Question: what most determines the environmental impact of your clothes? I mean, you did see the title of the video, right? Hello everybody, I'm Modal. Welcome back to Sustainable Jungle, where we share sustainability tips, tricks, hacks, products, brands, and stories to better our little blue planet. And the answer to that question, in case you couldn't guess, is fabrics. Yes, they directly contribute to consumption of water, microplastic pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, soil degradation, rainforest destruction, and lastly, landfill waste of epic proportions. Gotta love fabrics, right? And that's exactly why, we should all probably have a basic idea of what a sustainable material is and what it isn't. Who made my clothes? Yes, that should absolutely be the first question you ask. But what are my clothes made of should be your second. Now, there are a plethora of fabrics that could be considered as sustainable. Some more wacky than others, like banana tex, Scoby leather, and Q-milk, and we'd love to cover them all in this video, but it would take like 17 hours. And I know you would love that, but So I've narrowed down this list to the biggest bang for buck materials that you're likely to find while shopping for clothing, homewares, or any textiles. But let's back it up a sec. What actually makes a fabric sustainable? How do you know it fits into that bucket? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I do, sort of. It probably helps to work backwards and define what an unsustainable fabric is first. So let's think about conventional fabrics in fashion, homewares, cotton, viscose, leather. Historically, they've been developed with profit in mind, not the planet, which means sourcing of raw materials from unsustainable farming, deforestation, drilling, chemically intensive processing, plasticizing, bleaching, softening, dyeing, and poor end-of-life prospects, which end up being the 15 million tons of textile waste in the US alone every single year. Not so fun for the planet. So what are the fun, sustainable fabrics then? Well, we define them as textiles that significantly minimize the impact of its conventional alternatives, whether through organic and chemical-free farming, use of recycled materials, circular manufacturing processes, and sustainable prospects for end-of-life disposal. So simple. Of course, all fabrics are on a spectrum of sustainability. Where you draw that line between sustainable and unsustainable exactly can be so tricky, and there's no rules here, so we can only give you our opinion with the spectrum in mind, relatively speaking. On the positive side, environmentally, fabrics are becoming easier and easier to find and more crazy and innovative crazy, which is probably a good segue into our first hero, fabric, which is the most eco-friendly fabric, and its doppelganger gets the tag as the world's dirtiest crop. Any guesses? I know, no big surprise here. Organic cotton is grown without pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and processed with no chemicals, overall using 62% less energy and roughly 88 to 92%, depending on which study you refer to, less water. Organic production systems produce crops that have zero persistent pesticide and fertilizer residues. That's better for us, obviously, and the planet, and are known to help support soil fertility and increase biodiversity. Organic cotton is also better if you have sensitive skin with no toxins embedded in the fibers. This is my baby's little hat. And it's softer and more durable than regular cotton because it's handpicked from longer fibers, which basically maintains the structural integrity of the raw fiber, which is all a pretty big deal when you consider how bad conventional cotton is. Besides taking 1/3 of a pound of synthetic fertilizers to grow enough to make one t-shirt, the cotton industry is actually responsible for using 24% of the entire insecticide sold worldwide. I'm sorry, bugs. That combined with pesticides I could never pronounce, poisons thousands of cotton farmers and their families every single year. Oh, and I don't even want to know how badly the environment is impacted. However, even in this seemingly clear-cut case, there are gray areas which some, like the Cotton Incorporated, it's the research and marketing company representing US cotton growers and importers, highlight to criticize the merits of organic cotton. What exactly could that be? It's a good question. It's about efficiency. On two fields the same size, the one with conventionally planted cotton will actually produce more cotton. While organic farming uses less water, requires no pesticides or fertilizers, it takes more land to produce a similar yield, which apparently is a greater impact on the environment. And this is actually a very similar line of debate that's used with organic food, particularly coming from those in favor of conventional agriculture. But all things considered, we think there's not much weight in the land size debate when you're poisoning untold areas of land and people to, let's just be honest, maximize your profit, okay? So we'd opt for organic cotton every single day of the week. And how do you know what organic cotton looks like? Well, certifications, namely GOTS or Global Organic Textile Standard, being the OG and most common. There's also Organic Cotton Standard. While it doesn't include any standards around social or environmental issues, it is still the next most stringent in terms of sustainable farming practices. Okay, next up we have Modal fabric. Oh, that's still organic cotton. Modal fabric is a semi-synthetic hybrid fabric that is usually combined with other fibers to give it a very soft, smooth, breathable, and long-lasting properties. It doesn't crease, it doesn't shrink, it drapes really well, and it even provides a bit of stretch, which is like the perfect post-Christmas getup, right? You'll most likely find it in underwear, t-shirts, robes, activewear, and even bedding and pillows. As one of the most luxurious vegan fabrics, generally the high-end sustainable clothing brands use it. It's actually made out of harvested beech trees, which are put through a somewhat complex purification process, converting wood chips into cellulose that eventually becomes the modal fabric, very similar to viscose. But the question of modal sustainability actually comes down to how it's manufactured, and that depends on, well, who's doing the manufacturing. Production of this fabric usually takes place in countries like China, India, Indonesia, and Pakistan, and government standards do vary. In some cases, rainforest pulp is used instead of beech trees, which is why you want to look out for manufacturing using sustainable sourcing practices. The leader in modal fabric is actually Lenzig AG. They're an Austrian fabric company whose mission is to create sustainable fabrics. And they use a circular business model that reuses, I think it's like 99% of solvents. They recycle all their water, and they only use certified sustainable wood sources, which is great. And the production is entirely carbon neutral. And you may have actually come across one of their brands already. It's called Tencel, which uses modal and lysol or eucalyptus tree fibers. That's the logo you want to look out for. And while we're on the semi-synthetic train, let's just go all out with full-blown synthetic. Why not? But my question to you is, which 100% synthetic material could possibly be considered a sustainable material? Well, currently, in our opinion, the only sustainable synthetics are recycled synthetics. And in this category, there's one particularly cool fabric, and that's recycled nylon, otherwise most commonly known as Econol, which is actually the brand that makes this fabric. Instead of going through the whole, I don't know, drilling, extraction, burn the earth while you're at it process, they actually take synthetic waste from ocean plastic, very clever, abandoning fishing nets and waste fabric, and reform it into recycled nylon that feels exactly the same as conventional nylon. According to them, the global warming potential is reduced by up to something like 90%. And it's also made in a closed loop system, and it doesn't require as much water. The only caveat is that this is still a synthetic, and like all synthetics, it releases microplastics, which are now a staple part of our diet. So just make sure you use a guppy bag when you wash these, because apparently fish and humans don't really like tiny bits of plastic, even if they're really tiny. The certifications you want to look out for are Global Recycled Standard, that's GRS, or the Recycled Content Standards, RCS. And our next hero fabric is that grown from our woolly friends. Definitely not vegan friendly, of course, and I'm not going to go into the ethical considerations here, but it is a sustainable fabric. As a natural fiber, wool has obvious benefits over petroleum-based synthetics. Besides the use of crude oil, large amounts of crude oil and chemicals, it's moisture wicking, temperature regulating, antimicrobial, it has anti-odor properties, it can be washed less frequently. Pure wool obviously doesn't release microplastics, and it's long lasting, which is why many sustainable outdoor clothing brands opt for wool as a primary material. You might see alpaca wool, merino wool, maybe even yak or camel wool. each with their own specific environmental footprint. But generally, they are, I don't know if you can see that, durable, they biodegrade naturally, and they don't require a lot of chemicals during the processing stage. The downside, apart from the ethical concerns, of course, is that most animal agriculture has been associated with environmental degradation, land clearing, and of course methane production from livestock, and that includes sheep for wool farms. Unless, for example, it's done via a regenerative agriculture model, which simplistically means that the sheep raising will actually just benefit the land. What you want to look out for is ZQ Merino Standard certification, also Responsible Wool Standard, Wool Mark, and Certified Organic Wool. And that'll maximize your eco efforts if you're buying wool. And the last hero fabric here is perhaps the oldest, after wool. From mummies to Mesopotamians, linen was basically synonymous with fabric, and apparently by medieval times, it was used for everything from clothing to fishing nets. While a lot of its sheen has been taken away by synthetics, it's still found in clothing, rugs, bedding, towels, and interestingly, it's apparently even blended with cotton to make the US dollar bill. Why all the hype though? Well, much like wool, it has moisture wicking and temperature regulating properties. It's one of the most durable natural fibers, and it's thermoregulating. It keeps you cool in the summer and warmish in the winter. It's also antibacterial, it's resistant to sunlight, it dries well, it absorbs well, it doesn't pull, and has the ability to hold dyes better than some other fabrics. Now, the texture of linen can vary depending on the thread count, from coarse and cheap to fine and expensive, though it's unlikely you'll find a version of linen that is as soft as organic cotton or modal. But it's generally, having said that, softer than hemp. And apparently it does get softer over time. Now, linen fiber is actually made from the blue flowered flax plant through a fairly laborious process of harvesting, winnowing, extraction, and separation. But how sustainable the fabric ends up being is actually mostly down to how it's been grown. And here again, organic is your gold standard, and the GOT certification will be your best bet. There's also European Flax Cert, which is where most of linen is actually cultivated. But I wouldn't count on finding organic linen at your nearest thrift store or being used by your favorite sustainable clothing brand, because it currently only makes up just 1% of the entire world's linen. But don't stress, because even if you can't get your hands on this version, linen grown conventionally is still, we think, in the sustainable camp. Seed to harvest is only like 100 days compared to cotton, which is 150 to 180 days. Flax needs few pesticides, fertilizers, and very little water as compared to non-organic cotton. Of course, in the retting process, some manufacturers use chemicals like alkali and oxalic acid, which is not so cool. But if you're buying from a sustainable brand, they'll usually comment on the manufacturer's process. Otherwise, just reach out and ask them how their linen is produced. So, besides a bit of shrinkage, a highish price tag, and being less common, what is not to love about this notoriously wrinkly fabric? Look, there are many more sustainable fabrics, and there's tons of innovation in this space, and we've got a list of the top 31 sustainable fabrics, which I'll pop a link to below. But what's the takeaway here? Well, generally the most well-known sustainable fabrics are the most reliable from an environmental perspective. Just be aware that not every fabric that's marketed as eco-friendly is actually eco-friendly. And yes, I know generally these fabrics are more expensive than others, but they also last longer in most cases. And at the end of the day, if you prioritize fabrics, sustainable fabrics for your wardrobe or home textiles, you're getting a safer, better quality product, and you're reducing your carbon footprint at home. It just takes a bit of thoughtful shopping, which I know you love to do. I'll add links to all of the resources I mentioned and links to the specific deep dives we've done on most of these fabrics. And of course, I'd love to know which is your most favorite sustainable fabric and why. Thank you for watching, friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like button, all the buttons if sustainable living is your thing. I'm Lyle from Sustainable Jungle. Much love and conscious consumption always.